Creativity Show. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to do something different, which is I'm going to work on my art, hopefully finish it today, the Four Seasons. The project for this quadriptych is called Essence of Everything. And I call it that because nature in the cosmos, everything is connected. So winter is about air, spring is about water, summer is about earth, autumn is about fire. So it's blue, green, yellow, red, the primary colors, silver, bronze, flowers, grasses, maple, and then the four different sky stories. We have a night, a full moon at dusk with the snow-covered mountains, and then we have rain and the waterfall. Then we have a rainbow and an aura around the sun. Then we have the thunderclouds and lightning igniting the fire. So it's a story about the ever-changing, all-connected nature that we are a part of. And the four kimonos, winter with the crane, spring with the fish, summer with the dragonfly, and autumn with the deer, will be worn during the performance piece that these are on the way to, and used during the spoken word about each of the four seasons, that then becomes audio art that will be the inspiration for the choreography, which will be the movement part. So it's visual, word, movement, audio, and Bodhi, the movie maker, his YouTube channel, my dear son, will be videoing it, and he will live edit so that it will be projected for the last act, which will be the movement part. So one of the inspirations for this Essence of Everything is combining all of the arts, and movie making can do that. So it's been a over 50-year dream of mine that I decided now is the time to do it. It actually started as a degree plan when I spent a brief time at Antioch, the Wallace University, before I determined for me the path was to just do what I know is my purpose and the best I can give the world, instead of borrowing money to get a degree to say I could do it, just do it. I heard the ding of a comment.
Yes, indeed. The Lone Gun said, hi, Claire, good afternoon to you.
Well, hello, thank you for being here. Nice to hear from you. I love these virtual visits. I love this way we can walk lightly on the planet, tiptoe our carbon footprint, and still connect with one another without flying or driving, and connect with anyone around the world. And the different thing I'm going to do today is during the time I'm working on my art, I'm not going to be talking, but you're going to be hearing my pre-recorded voice reading from my memoir, Incandescence, Rising Above Darkness, which is right here, which I wrote because many people throughout my life have asked me to share my stories, and told me that hearing them, reading them, really helped them heal and hope and follow their passion and purpose. Yes. Did you ding?
I did. Triple M on YouTube says, excited to see you make more art, and sounds good. I love your stories.
Thank you so much, Triple M. I'm really glad you're here. And yes, I think every one of us, I believe this to be true, every one of us has beauty, purpose, something valuable, maybe many things that are valuable to share with the world. And I hope to encourage you and others, and that you will share this with others to encourage them to speak up, share their truth. We live in a world that's been sexist a long time. I just heard Julia Gillard, the only prime minister ever, the female prime minister of Australia, say in her TED talk that global studies show something I'd heard many times in many different ways, that if a man is confident and speaks up, he is that's accepted and even appreciated. If a woman speaks up, she said it in her own words, I'm paraphrasing, confidently shares her story or her knowledge or her inspiration, the reaction is often revulsion. So that's what I call self-organizing sexism. Women are not supposed to speak up, but that's broken world rules. If the world were all squared away, we didn't have wars, children weren't starving, there wasn't disease and poverty and so much inequity, I wouldn't say broken world, but the ageism, sexism, elitism, racism in the world has not helped the world or anyone in it, even those who have the privilege. So let us fix it with loving compassion, being an example of speaking our truth and supporting other women to do so. So that's what I'm doing. So today you're going to hear some of my book pre-recorded while I'm working on my art, My Peaceful Place. And I'm really excited we figured this out, because I love to go meditative when I'm doing art. I've taken a big break from my book, so I'm going to be hearing my own voice and stories for the first time in a long time, which I suggest is a great thing for us creatives to do. Take big steps back if we can, so we can get some objectivity. So we're going to start with the dedication of my book, which is to my mother. And so that's why her picture's here. And she classically trained, I'm self-taught. She was my champion and always encouraged me to follow my instincts and trust myself. And I feel very blessed to have had a mother like that in a world that's full of competition, especially among women, and competitiveness. She taught me to not compete with anyone but myself of yesterday, to be better today. So today we start a new thing on these live streams, my pre-recorded stories while I'm doing my art in front of you. And hopefully there's something here that will inspire you, motivate you to share what only you can, your perspective, your voice, your stories, and how dysfunctional it is that women are not allowed to speak about themselves or what they know. We're half the world. Every person comes through a woman, and we have so much less voice and power and decision making. And it hasn't worked well for the world. So let us step up and balance the nurturing with the assertive, and live in better balance with each other and nature. So let's get into the art, because that's, well, I love connecting with you guys, and I love doing my art, so let's do it.
Great.
Oh. All right.
We'll go in and start the audio book.
Okay.
Get everything else going. And once I've started, I'm going to mute you.
Okay. So I have my pad, and I'm going to take off my click shoes, which are, it's,
Are you ready for me to start the audio book?
Sure.
We are going to start the audiobook now, and while it's playing, the other microphones will be muted, and any comments that come in while the audiobook is playing, we'll get to them at a break.
Incandescence, the life and art of a free spirit. 52 stories and images by author-artist Claire Cooley. An epic adventure transforming adversity into advantage. Beyond surviving is thriving. Dedication to my mother, who always called me dear, which I never tire of repeating. She is my North Star. I'm grateful for her loving compassion that set my course to live a life of kindness, honesty, and being awake. I feel my mother's pride rising from the water where we sprinkled her ashes. Her legacy of love flows around us in rivers, seas, and in the rain, washing away confusion. Her compassion is the constant in an ever-changing sea of uncertainty. In her still water, I see my reflection, offering others what she gave me.
Epigraph. A life guided through the dark by the light from within is never lost. Bodie Werner, movie maker.
How the book's title came to be. My dear friend Sumner Madison suggested the title from a note my mother sent me. Did you know you have inner incandescence, dear? One, duality dance. The duality dance of my life began with the monsoon rains drumming on the thin tin roof of our Quonset hut in the desert. The constant dance between light and dark, inspiration and struggle, serenity and chaos surrounded me as my individuality came into existence. The contrast between my safe mother and my dangerous father was the ever-present rhythm of my early life, the ever-present paradox of my mother being full of selfless purpose and my father being full of selfish pain. Her life was one of focused care. His life was one of unfocused rage. Her love tried to protect. His fear tried to control. She was a familiar ally. He was an ominous stranger. My mother was guided by the indefinable. My father could not believe in anything he could not define. She was guided by heart. He was led by mind. One was always serene, the other never rested. During the rainy season, the desert sky could change violently without warning. The stillness of the steady sun could dissolve suddenly into a torrential downpour. Flash floods following the heavy rain could wash away everything in its path. My father's discontent could wash away my mother's calm. I had to learn to dance with the duality. In order to not be swept away by the paradox, I made it a pal and played with it. My mother had me, an infant with colic, as well as 2 other toddlers. Her severe asthma and drunk husband made my constant pain an inability to eat too much to handle. My godparents took me in to give my mother a break. My godmother told me, everyone tried to comfort you. Anyone who came to visit would go into the room where you were whimpering, and instead of getting you to stop crying, they would come out of the room weeping. You were so tiny and inconsolable. Everyone was devastated. Then one day, the pain in your belly lifted and you could eat. From that day on, you were happy and self-sufficient. Pain puts things in perspective. Hurting can be a blessing because when it lifts, everything is easier. My godmother told me all she had to do was give me something new to explore every so often, and I would be content by myself in my playpen. Eventually, I returned to my parents, but I never felt at home with my father. I never sat on his lap or went to him with a bad dream, a wound, or a tale of a bully. I was always at home with my mother. She was my sacred witness from whom I never needed to keep secrets. My father showed off his mind at every opportunity, and asking him for any clarification only led to more confusion. They said he was a genius, but he came up with no solutions for his own misery. His brilliance served only to brilliantly outwit himself. His cleverness caught his happiness in a trap of his own making. My mother never flaunted her intelligence. She spoke at whatever level the person she was talking to was comfortable with. My father's rage, like a monsoon, could wash away anything in its path. But somewhere deep within me, I knew a man's softness. Perhaps it was my godfather holding me in those first few months. My mother managed spiritual equilibrium through forgiving everyone all of the time for everything. This enraged my father, as he could not force her to join him in his bitterness and self-loathing. He hated that she loved no matter what. I survived by silently observing and dancing alone to feel some joy. I did not engage unless I sensed someone's safety was at risk. When I felt impending conflict, I would distract my father and redirect his destructive energy. I understood the damage he could do. I did not allow it to frighten or anger or cloud my judgment. From a very young age, I practiced stepping aside and letting the hostility trip itself. It was my own sort of spiritual Aikido. I understood he endured greater pain than he caused others. I knew he had not invented the pain, but he had inherited it from someone else who had inherited it from someone else before them. Perhaps it was the first pain ever felt by anyone, still being passed down. I saw two possibilities for pain: bear it and expand myself, or pass it on and expand the pain. Perhaps being born with colic showed me what my father never considered. We can find a place outside ourselves to absorb all the suffering. My father's life was a series of unsuccessful attempts to distract himself from his anguish. He searched for his whole life to find what my mother had without going anywhere. He climbed mountains, scuba dived, and raced cars, chasing the peace my mother found without doing anything but loving others. Though my mother had a fine art degree, she could not find work outside of her factory job. She never complained, resented, or abandoned us. She found strength in providing for the children she did not imagine she'd have. My father did technical writing for aircraft and satellite companies. He developed a waterproof housing for a movie camera and filmed underwater. He shot the Mayan ruins and collected ancient artifacts. He built and raced Formula cars, bred tropical fish, did psychological experiments on Coatimundi, covered boats with aircraft fabric, and did photography. He even had a career as a painter I did not learn about until after his death. He excelled at everything he tried without much apparent effort, and it all gave him nothing but momentary pleasure. He kept moving from place to place, from endeavor to endeavor, chasing satisfaction. His insatiable wanderlust, incurable curiosity, and need to escape himself kept him and us constantly moving. Other than when he was passed out drunk, he was never still. The weight of his bitterness kept him from rising up to where my mother lived naturally. Though he tried desperately to feel a moment of the purpose she embraced in her simple life, his doubt kept him from the faith and goodness she embodied. She was light, free from resentment, disappointment, and regret. His heart was full of dark pain. He could not comprehend the love she lived. I forgave him for being unable to trust what he could not feel. I forgave her for not seeing who he really was under what he showed her. I appreciate it all, the dark, the light, the duality dance of life. I wonder how the two people who brought me into this world could be so different. Considering the utter contrast of my parents intrigues me as the duality dance of my life whirls around me. Seed settles on sacred soil. Seeds are designed to survive severe cold, extreme heat, drought, and infertile lands until finally the conditions are right to germinate. Some cross oceans or are blown thousands of miles. Some are eaten by animals. Some lie dormant for years until the time is just right to bloom. Eventually, the fortunate seeds land on fertile soil and become magnificently what they were meant to be. My mother knew it was necessary for me to stay in the sturdy shape until the time was right for me to blossom safely. My mother understood my tender shoots were too vulnerable and petals too sensitive for this place. We knew there would be a time for me to flower, but until then, we accepted I had to stay contained in the protection of the seed shape, content to survive, waiting for the time to thrive. The winds of chance cast my seed into the gale force of my father's destructive discontent. Staying in the calm eye of the storm of his rage required me to develop an ability to sense the subtle warnings of the violent turbulence brewing. Watching for the smallest changes of the brutal forces around me became a constant vigil. Staying precisely within the serenity of the very middle of the hurricane, within my seed shield, was required. This demanded alertness and agility to be ready to move quickly as the winds shifted. Staying silent to hear early warnings was my discipline. Observing the slightest changes in the environment, my practice, and trusting my instincts, my way. Occasionally, a kind visitor would come to see my mother when my siblings and father were not there. And only then would my mother say, "They are very nice, dear. Would you do your seed dance?" My mother wanted me to know there were some people who were gentle and among whom I could be safe. I would give my mother a small nod and then go into the other room. My mother would ask the guests to sit on the couch. When they were settled, I would come into the room and walk to the center. Sitting on my feet, I would fold the top of my body over the bottom, then tuck my head and curl my arms along my sides, putting my hands under my feet. After lying motionless in the seed shape for several minutes, I would begin to rise almost imperceptibly. First, my little arms, then torso, then legs would unfold like a sprout reaching for the light. Finally, when my whole body was upright, my arms would reach above my head, my small face would turn toward the sky. I would separate my arms as a flower in full bloom. Without any sound or movement, I would remain there for a few moments. Then I would bow toward the guest and leave the room silently. The visitors would be too stunned to utter a sound or applaud before I left the room, but this was as it should be. It was perfect because my seed dance was a gift, not a performance. When the dance was done, the gift had been given. Nothing more needed to happen, and everyone felt complete. Sleeper wave woke me up. There is a wave that comes without warning, from behind silently, without announcing its awesome force. The rogue wave knocked me down and carried me out to sea. They call it a sleeper wave, but it was really the wave that woke me up. One moment I was tickling the spiky underside of a starfish. The next I was under a wall of turquoise. The surging waves tossed me like a button in a wild child's bathtub. Not being able to tell which way was up, I did not struggle or try to get there. The light came from everywhere. As it swirled around me, I was mesmerized. I did not think about breathing as I surrendered to the ocean. There was a strange comfort in being part of such immensity, and I was not afraid. Acceptance made me buoyant, and I floated up toward the sky. Not fighting allowed the currents to take me out into the sea before flowing parallel to the beach. Floating on my back with my tiny face at the surface, I took in air between wave surges splashing on my face. I had not been this far out before, but instead of fearing the distance from land, I felt a sense of freedom. Trusting the sea did not want to keep me forever, I relaxed and rose and fell with the waves like a seal playing in the surf. My family and the other people on the beach were running back and forth looking for me. Some were screaming. Everybody except for my mother panicked. The fear of finding my limp body washed up, lifeless and cold, had overtaken most of them. Only my mother stayed calm as she kept repeating a chant softly toward the endless blue. Please bring my daughter back to me. Please bring my daughter back to me. She understood that even if she could swim, the ocean was in charge. Only the sea could save me. The other people were frantically running in and out of the waves, yelling as my mother knelt in the sand and kept whispering her plea. Years later, she told me so much time had passed that they were certain I was gone. When they found me washed up on the shore like a tiny beached creature, I did not understand why she kept saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." As she told the story of the day I was washed out to sea and washed back up onto the beach unshaken, she said, laughing, "You only cried when we would not let you go back into the water." She also told me, "You did not learn to swim, you just swam." And indeed, I don't remember ever not feeling at home in water. I do remember the seal dance I did on hot days in the backyard sprinkler, wearing my cousin's hand-me-down black leotard. All this came back to me vividly when my niece said, "You look like a Silky," looking at photos a photographer had taken of me. I said, "What is a Silky?" She explained the Silkies are the dark Irish women who are really seals. They can come ashore and shed their skin to become human. If a man finds her seal skin, he then owns the Silky unless she finds where her skin is hidden. Then she takes her seal skin and returns to the sea. Perhaps what happened after 16 years with my son's father was I came across where he tried to hide my true nature from me. For years I had been saying I felt he treated me like he owned me. So when I found my seal skin, I seized my freedom to explore the unknown depths of the seas of my own life, and my heart swam away. Story number 8. Okay, so we worked on the moon. We added some depth of field by having the reeds and get decreasing in size. We added some to the rain cloud so that when I put the little raindrops in white paint in there, it'll stand out a little better with the more gray in the rain cloud saturated with water. We also added some of that to above the rainbow. So we're going to take a sip of drink. I just noticed how I say we, because I feel like we're doing this together. I've always spent a great deal of my life in solitary creative projects, but I always feel connected to everybody and, well, everything. I believe it is scientifically true, it is emotionally true, it is spiritually true that everything is connected. So that's why the air, water, earth, fire, the colors, the metals, the types of growth, the types of skies, dusk, dawn, midday, are all depicted in this story of, which is very interesting to me, that when I wrote my degree plan at 18 for my brief time, and when I thought I would get a degree, pursue that, it was while fasting alone in the woods, and it was called The Study of Movement. And it was just yesterday on a walk with my son that I said, I just figured out why my instincts told me to call it that, because it's what everything in the universe has in common. Everything is moving. And the fire, earth, water, air, it's all moving around the whole planet and in the atmosphere, and connected to the solar system we're in and the cosmos and the universe that we're all part of. It's all connected and it's all moving. So that's it took me all these years to even understand why I called it the study of movement. So here I am fulfilling that vision all these years later. I said to my degree panel, when I can do the visual art, the spoken word, the auditory art, and the movement, all connected and inspired by this, the same thing, which for me has always been nature, and the nature in people, and the nature of the universe, that we're all connected and we're all moving. when I can bring that all together into one expression of creativity flowing in all those directions, I will have earned my degree. So when I complete this essence of everything, I may give myself an honorary degree in being me. Okay, let's keep this going. I'm going to work on the grasses in summer, and you can start the stories again. I hope you're enjoying it, and please, I love to hear your feedback.
And scan the QR code at the bottom to get the book. You can get it anywhere you can get books, online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and more. You can also go into your local bookstore and order it. But you could just go to Amazon and type in Claire Cooley, or type in the name of her book, Incandescence Rising Above Darkness.
And it's available in an ebook, print versions, color. There's 68 pieces of art and 40 more photographs. So color is, I think, worth a couple more bucks it costs, but there's also a black and white version. And these live streams, virtual visits, I'm going to keep putting out the book in order. So eventually it'll all be out in this audio form. And then we'll be able to market the audio version. So there you go. Yes.
Okay, guys, let's continue story time. We're going to mute our microphones when the audiobook starts here.
4. The Eye of the Whale. I stood perfectly still in front of a porthole window while the rest of my family hurried to the next tank at the aquarium. They kept moving quickly, hoping to catch a glimpse of something wild. I stood alone, hoping something wild would catch a glimpse of me. My face filled the circle of glass as I stood stone still at the first porthole window. It was the perfect height for me as a 5-year-old. Hypnotized by the world of water I stared into, I felt the presence of something powerful, though I could not see anything but swaying light. Motionless, as if paralyzed, the feeling of a magnificence increased. If I could have made my legs move, I would have run, but the water's undulating light immobilized me. I looked into the softly swirling liquid for what seemed a long time before a whale's huge gray eye filled the window inches away from my small hazel eye. The whale was looking inside of me, into my mind, into my heart. Seeing this beautiful being trapped in this tiny tank, not roaming the oceans freely, filled me with a gigantic sadness. Tears pooled in my eyes, and I heard the whale speak to me inside of my being. It did not occur to me that this was unusual until I reflected on it much later, when I wanted to remember what the whale said to me. At the time, I did not think about what the whale said. I simply felt it like waves of kindness passing through me and surrounding me all at the same time. The whale felt me, and I felt the whale, and that was enough. I had no desire to tell anyone. Whales see the interior of things as their sonar penetrates beneath the surface. They start from the truth we humans seldom reach. This was one of those moments that changed my view forever, setting into motion an entirely different future than would have existed without the whale's eye filling the window and my heart. Its voice still surfaces within me. The whale still speaks to me. I can still feel the whale say, "You need not feel sadness for me. I am free because I feel. You do not need to be sad because you are free, because you feel. But your kind is not free because they do not know what they feel. Feel for them. Feel compassion for them. I still feel minuscule next to the whale's immense love, tiny next to the whale's gigantic wisdom. The whale filled me with compassion until there was no room left for anything else, even my name. When the guards found me, I could not remember who I was or how long I had been standing there alone. Gazing into the mysteriously lit world, I could not even care about these things. My father retold the story many times. We went to the aquarium and Claire did not want to be found, so she made up a last name. Over the loudspeaker, they heard, "There is a 5-year-old girl at the front desk named Claire Jones." The whale had filled me so full there was no room for anything unnecessary like a last name. Only the name my kind mother gave me remained. The guards wanted me to have a last name, so I picked one. I do not remember what my father remembers. I only remember the whale. 5. Sphere of Serenity. Whenever I felt fear, I would imagine myself surrounded by a circle of light. I believed the dark was frightened by the light, and the light kept me shielded from danger. When uncertainty was around me, perhaps because I believed it would, the luminous sphere kept me safe. Imagining floating around the world in a bubble lit from within was joyous. I counted on the freedom and safety I felt while envisioning the surrounding glow. When I drifted close to the sea's edge, the air in front of the wave would gently move me out of harm's way. I knew the wall of water would not crush me. I had no fear while I was in the radiant sphere. I felt protected from all danger. Sometimes I rode the air currents, ascending like a bird out of deep canyons on warm thermals. In the circle of brilliance, I would soar above all concerns, and nothing could bother me. I often looked forward to going to bed so I could focus on the shining surrounding me and dream of traveling to distant places, far from the ordinary turmoil of home. I look forward to bedtime when I could float away from all the loud sadness. Within the light, I could breathe in the vacuum of space. When I looked back at Earth from far, far away, I felt an all-encompassing peace. While in the round radiance, I traveled to worlds where thoughts could be heard, so words need not be spoken. The more I visited those worlds, the more I could be comfortable in the world with others. I preferred my worlds where no one was unhappy, worlds where compassion was the queen, everyone delighted in worshiping. In those gentle worlds, I could depend on everything being naturally beautiful. In my family home, nothing was predictable except for my mother's love. There were times when keeping the light around me took tremendous effort. Other times, it surrounded me as if provided by some inexplicable, invisible force. I did not try to understand how the surrounding light allowed me to survive the darkness. I simply trusted it, and it would be there when I needed it. The circle of light seemed to give me strength my siblings did not have. My younger sister coped with the chaos all around us by pretending everything was okay. She had to believe we were a normal family to carry on. After she was an adult, it became clear to her we were not normal, and I think it crushed her. She dropped out of the family entirely and has not returned. My Aunt Jane said to me, "I do not understand why your little sister is not in your life. You were always kind to her." Perhaps that is why. She could not understand how I could be kind when so much around us was cruel. My brother dealt with the unpredictable by staying in his bedroom, reading books. Maybe he needed to distract himself with a head full of facts to get through. My older sister numbed herself with all the drugs and alcohol she could find. We all had our ways of coping. I retreated into quiet nature or into the circle of light. I returned refreshed and tried to create order in the chaos. I was third born and saw what did not work for my older sister and brother. So I tried something different that worked for me. Maybe my younger sister did not need to face the uncertainty because I watched over her and kept her safe. When our father remarried, his new wife's daughter came into our lives. I took her under my wing and tried to give her a sense of security. I was the adult child watching over everyone. I became the authority even the adults turned to for direction. My new sister said, "From my first memories of you when I was 6 years old, no matter what was going on, my mother, my grandmother, your father, brother or sisters, everyone turned to you for guidance." I often remember walking into a room and sensing something was about to go wrong. I would quickly imagine the brilliant lights surrounding the house while I determined who was about to lose control. Then I would do something to redirect the energy, blowing out the fuse before it reached the explosive hurt in their heart. What everyone depended on me for was also a source of resentment. What some were appreciative of made others jealous. All I ever wanted was to bring everyone into the circle of light and keep them safe. I still do. The only thing that has changed is now I want to encircle the whole world in the luminous peace. 6. Under the boat. My mother asked the next-door neighbor to check on us before she got home from work and my father got home from the bar. I would get home first. Minutes after I heard the school dismissal bell ring in the distance, I would run into the house to be alone for a few minutes in the bedroom I shared with my two sisters. The neighbor would call out as soon as she saw me go into the house, "What are you doing?" I would yell out the window, "Cleaning my room," and she would let me be. Then I would take the old shoebox out from under my bed, opening my treasure chest with care equal to its precious contents. It was full of rough and shiny stones, round, oval, and wing-shaped seeds, white, pink, and orange seashells, and blue jay, crow, and sparrow feathers. Every day I would examine and admire each item as if it was the first time I saw it before adding something new. This daily ritual ended with me carefully closing the box to put it back under my bed where no one ever looked. Then the ritual would continue with me changing into one of the 2 hand-me-down black leotards I got from my cousins who took ballet. The box of nature's jewels, the 2 leotards, and a few normal clothes were my only possessions. Each day during my bath, I washed the leotard I wore while I danced in the backyard before anyone came home. The leotard would dry overnight, hung over the shower curtain, while the dry one from the day before was placed under my pillow. One day, the leotard I hung up the evening before was not on the shower curtain rod where I'd left it. I put on the other one and went outside before anyone else came home, as I did every day. The next-door neighbor was at her kitchen sink doing the dishes as I walked by. She looked at me like she saw a ghost and dropped what she was washing. I realized She didn't know I had 2 identical leotards. She must have come into the house and taken the one drying on the curtain rod. She could not figure out how I could be wearing it and could not contain her surprise. I think she just wanted me to fit in and be like the other girls and wear dresses. She looked scared, and I knew she had taken the leotard. I said nothing as usual and went to the backyard. I had once played with her daughter, Trina, who kept dressing and undressing her dolls. They felt strange and smelled unpleasant. Their clothes were rough, busy patterns of bright colors that were not lovely to me. Trina always wore a cowgirl outfit with a holster and gun on each hip. She wanted me to play the Indian because I had dark hair. She wanted me to play dead when she shot me. I slipped away as soon as Trina's friend came in, and I did not play with her again. I was comfortable being outside with the crickets and grasshoppers. It was not lonely for me to be alone. It seemed to me people were confused, and nature was not. People did not tell the truth, and nature never lied. In natural places, things felt real. Among people, things often felt false. Every day, Trina's brother would try to find me. Perhaps he wanted to see me dancing in the backyard. But the dances were not for him, so I made sure not to do them when he or anyone else was close by. When I heard him coming, I would hide beneath the upside-down fiberglass boat next to our house. There was a small cutout for the outboard motor, which appeared too small for anyone to squeeze through, so he never looked for me under the boat. I loved the way the sun shining through the green fiberglass made the light so soft in my own little world. The pure white grass that grew under the boat was delicate and otherworldly. Everything in this world delighted me. The veins and leaves and the smell of the soil, all was serenely mysterious. Sometimes I would find albino worms and see-through bugs under the boat. I could lie there peacefully looking at the tiny creatures and plants for however long it took him to look everywhere except where I was. I would wait, knowing sometimes he would come back and check again, but not 3 times. He never found me, which made him angry. He would slam the gate behind him every day when he gave up looking and went to do something else. When he was gone, I would come out on hot days and do a seal dance in the sprinklers. There was a different dance for every kind of light, every season, every creature, and every mood. I did not practice, repeat, or memorize them. They were natural and came without thought or hesitation. I loved them all equally. They were meant for a particular moment and only that moment. The dances came like the sun comes to the morning, butterflies to flowers, frogs to puddles. Toys, television, and comic books were not interesting to me. I only remember one toy from my childhood, a panda bear with a music box inside of it Aunt Jane gave me. I was fascinated by the music box, so I carefully opened the stuffed animal and removed it. I loved watching the tiny metal paddles hitting the spikes on the wheel, and I put the music box in with my other treasures. Toys got broken, lost, taken, or my siblings would fight over them. I was glad I did not care about them. No one else valued my natural things, which filled me with wonder. What gave me comfort and inspiration caused no conflict, so I could have what I most cared about, peace in nature. While alone in natural places, I became part of whatever surrounded me. I danced with the gentle breeze to the sounds of the birds.
All right.
I'm going to stand up. Can you read it from out here?
Alrighty, we got a few comments. Hey, how is everybody doing? I'm going to put the link to her book right here at the bottom of the screen. You can scan that with your phone, or you can just go to Amazon and type in Claire Cooley, or Incandescence Rising Above Darkness.
Okay.
You can also go to incandescencebook.com to see all the different versions of the book and all the different ways you can purchase it. And I'll come out and we'll do that. Well, so Madeline on YouTube said, love with a heart emoji for the O, your art and your book. Such wonderful, uplifting stories. I highly recommend your book.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so wonderful, well, to be appreciated. We all want to be appreciated. And it's so deeply gratifying to turn my adversity into advantage by turning it into art that, over there, that uplifts others or inspires you to share your beauty, your wisdom, your knowledge, your art, your perspective, your stories. The more of us who share who we really are, the broader the perspective of humanity, the greater diversity in any ecosystem, the healthier that environment is. So let us all share who we really are, what no one else can share, your story, your perspective, what you've learned from what you've gone through, what inspires you. It makes the world a more beautiful, a safer, a richer place. So that's, what I hope from sharing. And it's not easy to share ourselves, especially as women. As I said earlier, we can be ridiculed for speaking up. But, the world needs to come back into balance, and the more women who support each other, who share their truths, their perspective, their love of the world, their knowledge, their inspiration, the better chance we have of resolving the huge issues in the world. So go for it, girls.
And Rose Boyajian said, I want to order some of Claire's stencils very soon. Plus, I need a few of her books. We are sold out now.
Nice, Rose Boyajian. Thank you. I'm so glad you're with us here at this virtual visit, and thank you for your acknowledgement of my work and my stories. And she's with the International Crane Foundation, which very young in life I realized, the connection with nature has been there all along, that cranes really represented a center of my work. And so I went to the International Crane Foundation, invited by the director, co-founder, George Archibald, many years ago, before Bodhi existed. And he allowed me to sit in the cages and enclosures and observe the cranes close up. And I did the Book of Cranes, the paintings of all 15 species, printed by Pomegranate Art Books. And they are the most of my 500 pieces of art. There's more cranes than any other one subject matter. I have a spiritual connection to them, I would have to say. And so, and here's winter with the cranes. on that kimono. Yeah, thank you, Rose, and we'll get in touch later and get you whatever. And happy to do that, and appreciate your support of my work and sharing it.
And Kathy Cato said, very cool.
Nice, thank you, Kathy. And Kathy's a woman here in this community that I'm very pleased that gave me the privilege of being a creativity coach for her, and hearing her and reflecting her words back to her, so that she could start a new chapter in her life, a new artistic, spiritual business of writing poetry for those who have passed. And honor and comfort, I heard her say those words and suggested, reflecting it back to her, that that could be a great name for her business, and it is. And Bodhi, Mr. Technically Facile, made her a website. So I'm very, very pleased about all that. I love to help others connect with their creativity and bring their beautiful inspiration out to the world. So we are all connected, and it enriches our lives to be there for one another, and especially in these tender ways, which is our artistry. Is it comes from a very tender place. Is there anything else you want to share in there?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Sue Spencer for sharing the event page, and everyone else who shared the live stream and checked in and commented. We really appreciate it. And a great way to help support these live streams and Claire's work is to share it with your friends. Email it, send it to people, post it on your social media. Helps us grow. And over here on the right side of the screen, there's a QR code where you can get her book, Incandescence, Rising Above Darkness. And also, I highly recommend you check out this other link, patreon.com/Claire Cooley. That can take you to her Patreon, where all of her stencil designs are available, included in the $5 a month membership fee, which I think is the best deal around. And we're putting out more stencils all the time, and we're going to put out other types of her content as well. It's a great way to support her work.
Yeah, thank you, Sue, and anybody and everybody who shares or tells a friend. I'm very uplifted by people sharing what I'm sharing with their connections. And I love the grassroots growing and stepping outside the commercial, sharing what inspires me and what I hope helps others, and what people have told me helps them, and having other people share it for the same reason is greatly hope increasing for me, that humanity, we can heal ourselves, and we can help each other, and we can bring the world back into balance with each other, and minimize conflict and war and the inequities, and come back into balance with nature for the greater good. So I'm have, of course, lost track of time because I've been doing art. So where are we at, Bo?
That's beautiful. You did a great job. It's 1:08.
Wow. Okay. So I have noticed over the years, and I've been doing creative expressions all of my life, that it is a meditative and timeless place. So I had no idea an hour passed, and that's enough for today. And we will do another one on Thursday, every Monday and Thursday at noon. I'm doing these, and we will continue sharing stories from the book and sharing whatever art I'm working on. And I'm so grateful for every one of you for being here, and I really appreciate and thank you for sharing, telling your friends, and it really means a lot to me. And I do the art for me, but I share it for you. And thanks for being here. Thank you, Bodhi, for all your help. It's I couldn't do it without you, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So you're wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, great job, and thanks everybody. And if we missed any comments, I will take note of them, and we'll discuss them next time she goes live on Thursday.
All right. Thanks for being here. See you Thursday. And meanwhile, stay creative. Love ya.